She said it was just one night, but that night turned every morning into a lie, and every kiss into a reminder of what she chose to ruin. I'm Ryan, 30, living in San Diego, engaged to Mia, 28. From the outside, our life looked like an Instagram ad for happiness. Engagement photos at sunset, ocean view apartment, wedding deposits all lined up like dominoes ready to fall perfectly into place. We'd spent 2 years building this life. Shared Spotify playlists, joint grocery lists, weekend plans that felt like promises. That night, I was out with friends for a buddy's bachelor party. Cheap beer, bad karaoke, the usual noise. Then I heard it, her laugh. Not just any laugh, but that one. The one that cracked high at the end, the one I used to think was mine alone. It came from a TV behind the bar, streaming her company's end-of-quarter party. There she was, on-screen Mia, dancing on a table in the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. A coworker's hands around her waist. The live chat scrolled, "Mia's the office MVP," and "Garrett, you lucky bastard." When she came home later, she kissed me goodnight, smelling like champagne and someone else's cologne. I didn't say a word. Something inside me had already shifted. Quiet, cold, irreversible. She showered that night like she was rinsing off a performance. Steam rolled out of the bathroom as if it could wash away the lie she'd just lived. She came out in my t-shirt, kissed me softly, and said, "You're quiet tonight." I mumbled something about being tired. She smiled, curled up next to me, and fell asleep within minutes. Like her conscience weighed nothing. Her phone sat on the nightstand, face down, buzzing occasionally. I wasn't the type to snoop. Never had been. But that laugh on the TV kept replaying in my head, like a song stuck on a loop. When the screen lit up again, my curiosity wasn't curiosity anymore. It was instinct. The message preview said, "Garrett, you were fire last night. Fire can't stop thinking about you." I stared at it. The words didn't register right away. Then the world went very still. My hands were trembling when I picked up her phone, and in that moment, I swear, some part of me already knew the truth. The messages went back 8 months. Buried between meeting reminders and grocery lists was an entire secret relationship, a second life. Photos of hotel rooms I'd never seen, dinners I'd never heard about, selfies I'd never taken. Her and Garrett, arms around each other, inside jokes, the language of two people too comfortable in their betrayal. Garrett, "Wish you were in my bed instead of his." Mia, "You know he'd never suspect a thing. He's too nice for that." Garrett, "Nice is just another word for blind." Each text was a needle, each photo a slice. There were even screenshots of flights, business trips to LA, supposedly for client meetings. I opened the attachments. Selfies of her in hotel mirrors, champagne glasses clinking, her handwriting on a napkin. My real getaway. Some messages were worse than the cheating. They were cruel. "Mia, he plans everything. Even our dates feel like schedules." Garrett, "That's why he'll never see this coming." When I reached the beginning of their thread, my chest felt hollow. It started with an innocent office party last year. A harmless dance. Then drinks. Then the first lie. I could see her testing how far she could go. A late-night text here. A just friends lunch there. Until it became full-blown deception woven into daily life. I don't remember standing up, but when I looked again, the phone was still glowing in my hand, her face peaceful in sleep beside me. My fiancée dreaming while I drowned in reality. When she stirred awake, the first thing she saw was the screen, and then me. I'll never forget how her face changed. All color gone, pupils blown wide with panic. "Ryan," she whispered, "you weren't supposed to be home yet." Her voice cracked on the last word. She reached out for me, instinctively, like touch could rewind time. I didn't move. I just scrolled slowly, letting the silence stretch between us like a noose. "Mia," I said finally, voice low and calm. 8 months. She started crying, the kind of shaking, desperate cry that's meant to drown the truth. "It was one mistake," she gasped. "Just one night. I was drunk and—" "One night," I interrupted. "You've been lying every day for 8 months. She fell apart. Words tumbled out between sobs. "I didn't mean to. It didn't mean anything. I love you. She reached for me again, clutching at the air between us. I stood up, set the phone on the nightstand, and said quietly, "Pack your stuff." Her face twisted. Confusion, disbelief, rage. All of it colliding at once. "You can't be serious," she said. "We're getting married. We can fix this." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just repeated, "Leave." She screamed then, at me, at herself, at the walls, accused me of being heartless, controlling, ungrateful. Said Garrett meant nothing, that she was lonely, that I made her feel small, that I'd pushed her into it. Every line from the cheater's handbook, read aloud in panic. But I'd already left the conversation hours ago. She tried to hug me, begged, clung to my arm, said she'd go to therapy, quit her job, anything, but every word sounded like a performance. The same actress, new script. Finally, when she realized I wasn't changing my expression, her tone shifted again, calm, cold. "You'll regret this," she said. "Nobody will love you like I did." I opened the door. "That's the idea," I replied. She packed in silence after that. Makeup bag, clothes, her laptop. No tears, no apology. Just the sound of zippers and drawers. The quiet dismantling of a life we'd built. When she left, the apartment felt heavier, not emptier. Like the air itself remembered every lie. And in that stillness, with her scent fading from the room, I knew the night hadn't just revealed who she was. It had revealed who I'd become. Someone finally done mistaking loyalty for love. She left at 2 a.m, mascara streaked down her face, carrying a duffel bag and 1,000 excuses she'd never get to say. I didn't chase her. The door clicked shut, and for the first time in years, I heard what silence actually sounded like. Not peace, but clarity. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight and an empty side of the bed. For a few moments, my body still moved on autopilot. Made coffee, opened the blinds, checked my phone. Then habit collided with reality. The wedding group chat still had messages from her, cake-tasting reminders, honeymoon flight confirmations, dress fittings. All of it suddenly absurd. I opened our shared credit card account. The kind of morbid curiosity that drives people to look at crash scenes. And there it was, the financial evidence of betrayal. Hotel rooms in downtown LA, 2 different resorts in Palm Springs, dinners that cost more than my rent used to. Some charged to her card, most to mine. The receipts painted a clearer picture than any text message could. They weren't hiding it well. Weekends she'd claimed to be visiting her college friend were spent at the same boutique hotel Garrett had tagged in his posts. Room service for 2. A bottle of champagne. Romantic getaway package. I sat there for hours, cataloging it all like a forensic accountant of my own heartbreak. Screenshots, statements, her emails confirming bookings. I wasn't crying anymore. I was documenting. There's something coldly empowering about facts. Lies dissolve in their light. Once everything was saved, I sent the folder to myself, labeled Evidence, Closure. Then, almost without thinking, I forwarded it to her parents' shared email, no commentary, just the files. The response came faster than I expected. Her mother called first, voice trembling between outrage and denial. "Ryan, honey, you're overreacting. You know how wedding stress gets to people. She's been under a lot of pressure." I stared at the phone, then said evenly, "Pressure doesn't book hotel suites under someone else's name." Silence. Then a sigh. "You don't understand women. Sometimes they just need." I hung up. An hour later, her sister texted. "It was just a bad decision. Everyone makes mistakes. She still loves you." I replied with 3 photos. One of Mia and Garrett at the rooftop bar, one of the hotel receipt with Garrett's signature, and one of the text where she'd called me boring and predictable. Read. No reply. By evening, the apartment felt different. Not just empty, but disinfected. I packed away her leftover things into neat boxes. Makeup, hairbrush, stray shoes, her robe hanging in the bathroom. Each item felt like an artifact from a museum of lies. Then, at 8:17 p.m., I heard pounding on the door. Through the peephole, Mia, her mom, and her sister. 3 women standing like a delegation of damage control. I opened the door just enough to be polite. Her mom marched in before I could say anything. "We need to talk," she announced, eyes flashing with moral authority she hadn't earned. "This behavior is childish. Marriage is work. You can't just throw everything away because of one mistake." I let her talk. Her voice filled the apartment. The same tone she probably used to excuse Mia's tantrums as a kid. Mia stood behind her, puffy-eyed, her sister hovering like backup. Her mom jabbed a finger toward me. "You men are all the same. The moment something goes wrong, you give up. You think love is supposed to be easy. Well, newsflash, it isn't." I let her finish, then walked to my desk, opened the laptop, clicked on the folder marked Evidence. "March 12th, I said calmly, turning the screen toward them. "The first night she stayed at the W Hotel. Room 804. Mia's head snapped up. "Ryan, please don't." "April 8th, I continued. "Weekend trip to Palm Springs. Spa package. 2 guests." "Stop it," she hissed. "June 3rd. That dinner you said was a client event? $480, steakhouse downtown. Garrett paid the tip. Left a note on the receipt. For my girl." Her mom's mouth opened, then shut. The room went quiet except for the sound of Mia's uneven breathing. "I'm not cruel," I said finally, closing the laptop. "Cruel is lying to someone who loves you while using their money to fund the lie." Her mother's anger evaporated into discomfort. Her sister looked at the floor. Mia broke then. Fell to her knees, sobbing, the kind of sound that used to melt me. But this time it didn't. It just echoed. "Ryan, please," she whispered. "I made a mistake. I was stupid. I didn't know how to stop." "Yeah," I said quietly. "That's the thing about lies. They only stop when the truth does it for you." She looked up at me with those tear-glossed eyes that used to be my weakness. "You're really ending this? It ended the moment you thought I wouldn't find out." Her mom tried one last swing. "You'll regret this someday. No one is perfect." "Maybe," I said, "but I'd rather be alone with my peace than partnered with a liar." I walked to the door and held it open. No yelling, no theatrics, just stillness. Mia stood, wiping her face, searching for something to say. Some line that might undo the gravity of her choices. Nothing came. She stepped out first, her family trailing behind. When the door closed again, I locked it and leaned my head against the wood. For the first time since it all began, I exhaled. The apartment was mine again. Quiet, bare, honest. The mask had finally fallen. Not just hers, but mine too. Because I realized in that moment, I'd spent years pretending too. Pretending that love without respect could still feel safe. Pretending that compromise was the same as devotion. Now all that was left was truth, and the long, steady silence that follows it. After that night, I thought the story was done. That silence would be the closing chapter. But betrayal never ends cleanly. It spreads like smoke, finding new cracks to crawl through. 2 days later, while sorting through what was left of our wedding files, I came across Garrett's full name on one of Mia's old work event RSVPs. Garrett Harper plus guest. Something about that plus guest sat wrong. Out of habit, I typed his name into Facebook. The first profile that came up showed a smiling man in a backyard, arm around a woman in a floral dress, 2 little kids playing at their feet. A golden retriever completed the picture, the perfect suburban postcard. I clicked through the photos, anniversaries, Christmas mornings, captions like, "Family is everything." I didn't feel satisfaction, just a hollow ache of recognition. Someone else was living the same lie I had, only they didn't know it yet. Her name was Lauren. Her page was public. The most recent post was a picture of her and Garrett at the beach 3 weeks ago. Matching smiles, the kind couples wear when they still believe each other. I sat there for a long time before typing a message. "Hi Lauren. I know this will be painful, but I believe you deserve the truth. I was engaged to a woman named Mia. She and your husband have been having an affair for at least 8 months. I'm sending you proof, texts, hotel receipts, photos. I'm sorry you have to see this, but you deserve honesty, even if it hurts. I hesitated before pressing send. It wasn't vengeance anymore. It was empathy, maybe even mercy. I hit send. An hour later, she replied, "Thank you for telling me. I had a feeling, but seeing it hurts worse. Still, I'd rather know the truth than live a lie." That was all she wrote. No anger, no drama. Just a quiet dignity that made me respect her instantly. The next morning, my phone lit up with an unknown number. Garrett. He didn't even say hello. "You destroyed my marriage," he yelled, voice sharp with fury and fear. "No," I said evenly. "You destroyed it when you decided to have an affair. I just turned on the lights. You had no right. This was between us. There was never an US, Garrett. You made choices. They have consequences." He hung up after a few more threats and insults, but his panic told me everything. The lie was crumbling faster than he could rebuild it. By afternoon, the calls multiplied. Mia's mom, her sister, even friends I hadn't heard from in months. Different voices, same script. "You went too far. Think of the children." Children. The irony burned. I replied once. A single text to Mia's sister. "You didn't think about them when you were sleeping with their dad." After that, silence. Even they couldn't argue with that. The next day, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Mia's father. We'd never spoken much. He'd always seemed like the quiet observer in their loud family. He asked if we could meet. I agreed. We sat across from each other at a small coffee shop near the marina. He looked older than I remembered. Shoulders slumped, hair grayer, eyes heavy with the kind of exhaustion that comes from loving people who keep disappointing you. "You could have just walked away," he said finally, stirring his coffee but not drinking it. "Let her deal with her own mess." I watched the foam swirl before answering. "Would you want to know if your wife cheated on you?" He didn't answer right away, just exhaled, long and slow, like a man trying to let out a truth he didn't want to face. "Yeah," he said eventually. "I would." We sat there in silence for a while. Outside, people were walking dogs, jogging, living normal lives untouched by betrayal. He spoke again, quieter this time. "She's broken, you know. Always has been. We tried to protect her from consequences growing up. Maybe that was our mistake." I nodded. "Then maybe it's time she learns what breaking feels like." He looked up at me, really looked. Maybe for the first time, and there was no anger in his face, just tired understanding. "You still love her," he said, not as a question. "I did," I admitted. "But love without honesty is just attachment. And I'm done being attached to someone who mistakes forgiveness for permission." He nodded once, finished his coffee, and left without another word. When I walked out a few minutes later, the sky had that washed-out gold color of early evening. I stood there for a while, feeling the breeze off the water, and realized something strange. I didn't feel vindicated or proud. I just felt clean. That night, Mia texted me from an unknown number. "You ruined my life." I didn't reply, because the truth was, I hadn't ruined her life. She'd just finally been forced to live it without the lies holding it up. In the weeks that followed, small ripples of fallout reached me. Garrett moved out of his house. Lauren filed for divorce. Mia deleted her social media. Mutual friends dropped off, unsure which side to take. I didn't correct them. I didn't post or explain. I just kept the silence. Because sometimes revenge isn't shouting from the rooftops. It's peace. The kind that comes when everyone else finally hears the truth you already knew. Canceling a wedding is like erasing a life you haven't lived yet. It's 1,000 little deaths disguised as refunds. The first call was to the venue, Ocean View Terrace, a place Mia had dreamed about since she was a teenager. The coordinator sounded sympathetic at first, then professional when I said the word cancel. "I'm so sorry to hear that, Mr. Carter," she said softly. "We'll process your refund within 30 days. Refund. Not even a real word anymore. Just the echo of something that used to be joy. Next came the caterer, the florist, the photographer. Each call was another small confession. The wedding's off. Some offered condolences, others just fees. I watched $6,000 evaporate in a spreadsheet, and strangely, it felt like a detox. The price of peace. The tuxedo place refused a full refund. The cake bakery offered store credit. I told them to deliver it to the local children's hospital instead. Someone should still get a happy day out of this. At work, whispers started before I even said a word. People sense broken engagement energy like sharks sense blood. A few coworkers stopped by my desk with sympathetic smiles that carried more curiosity than care. "I heard about the wedding," one said carefully. "You holding up?" "Doing fine," I said, "because what else do you say?" Then came the unsolicited advice. "Maybe she felt neglected," one colleague offered. "You work long hours, right?" That one hit a nerve I didn't even know was still raw. It's funny how people always try to find a reason that makes the liar look human and the honest one look cold. Comforts them, lets them believe betrayal has logic. "Maybe," I said quietly. But neglect doesn't make hotel reservations. He didn't have much to say after that. I moved out of the apartment the following weekend. It wasn't technically hers. My name was on the lease, but every room felt haunted. The couch still carried her perfume. The kitchen echoed her laughter when I opened a drawer. You can't rebuild in the ruins someone else designed for you. The new place was smaller, plainer. Just white walls and sunlight, 2 blocks from the beach. I spent the first night sleeping on an air mattress, surrounded by unopened boxes and quiet. It was the best sleep I'd had in months. Over the next week, I repainted. New furniture, new dishes, even new towels. I wasn't running from memories. I was disinfecting them. Every nail hole I patched felt like sealing up the space where something poisonous had once leaked in. Mia kept calling. New numbers every time, random area codes, burner apps. Always the same pattern. Begging, blaming, bargaining. "We can fix this. You're destroying both our lives. I made a mistake." Sometimes she'd go nuclear. "You're cruel, heartless." No wonder I had to look elsewhere. I blocked every number before reading more than a line. You can't argue with someone who treats remorse like a performance. Then, one morning, an unexpected email arrived. Subject line: "Thank you." It was from Lauren, Garrett's wife. "Hi Ryan. Just wanted you to know I filed for divorce today. Your evidence helped me secure temporary custody and protect our kids. I can't undo the damage, but I can stop living in denial. Thank you for being honest, even when it wasn't your responsibility. You saved me months, maybe years of lies. Wishing you peace." I read it 3 times. Not because I needed to, but because it felt like closure written in someone else's voice. There was no bitterness, no blame, no desire for revenge. Just the quiet strength of a person who'd survived the same storm. That night, I walked down to the pier. It was one of those soft coastal evenings when the ocean hums like a low drumbeat and the air smells of salt and wood. I found a small bar tucked between 2 surf shops, the kind that doesn't advertise, just exists. I sat at the counter, ordered a bourbon neat, and watched the reflection of the sunset ripple across the glass. The bartender poured without asking questions. The first sip burned clean. For months, my heart had been a clenched fist, ready to fight, to defend, to expose. But that night, it finally opened. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt clean. People talk about closure like it's something someone gives you. An apology, a confession, a gesture. But closure isn't an event. It's the quiet decision to stop bleeding from wounds that won't ever get an explanation. As I sat there, the bartender nodded toward the wedding band I'd left on the counter, its small diamond catching the last bit of light. "Tough story behind that?" he asked. I smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't need words. "Not tough," I said after a pause. "Just finished." He nodded once like he understood, then went back to polishing glasses. Outside, the sun disappeared beneath the horizon, and the city lights began to shimmer. When I finally stepped out, the night air was cool, almost forgiving. I walked along the pier, shoes clicking against the wood, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like someone who'd been left. I felt like someone who'd walked away. 6 weeks later, the date that used to be our wedding day arrived like an echo. I woke up without an alarm, sunlight spilling across sheets that finally belonged only to me. There were no flowers, no vows, no photographer waiting for golden hour shots. Just a carton of takeout on the counter, a movie queued up, and the faint sound of waves outside my window. I'd expected the day to hurt, expected old habits to pull me back toward what could have been. But there were no tears, no anger, not even nostalgia. Just stillness. The kind that comes after a long storm when the air feels freshly scrubbed. I ordered Thai food, opened a beer, and let a dumb action movie fill the silence. Somewhere in another version of reality, I'd be slipping a ring onto her finger. In this one, I was eating pad thai and laughing at a bad joke from the TV. Honestly, I preferred this version. Mia tried reaching out again, of course. She made new accounts. Fake names, fresh photos, different email addresses. But the tone was always the same. Apologies that never admitted anything, followed by accusations when I didn't respond. One message read, "You're really going to ignore me forever? After everything we had?" I didn't reply. What we had was trust. What she built was an illusion. Her mother kept up the campaign too. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she was telling everyone I'd ruined her daughter's life, that I'd humiliated her publicly, that I'd gone too far. I didn't bother defending myself. People who mattered already knew the truth, and the rest could have their gossip. I'd learned something powerful through all of it. Silence can be the loudest statement. At work, things eventually quieted down. The whispers faded, replaced by small talk and project deadlines. One afternoon, a coworker I barely knew asked, "Do you ever regret walking away?" I didn't hesitate, only that I didn't do it sooner. He nodded, unsure whether to agree or pity me, but it didn't matter. Regret is for the people who wish they'd acted differently. I'd already done exactly what needed to be done. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about how easily things could have gone differently. If I hadn't looked up at that TV in the bar, if her phone hadn't lit up, if I just kept choosing comfort over truth. But then I'd remember the look on her face when she realized I knew. The panic, the guilt, the recognition that the mask had finally slipped. And I'd feel peace again. I'm not bitter. Bitterness means you still want something back. I don't. What I feel now is clarity. She said it was just one night. But that one night infected every morning after it. Every kiss became a lie. Every "I love you" became a rehearsal. She turned our future into theater. And I'd been the only one who thought it was real. Now my mornings are quiet. My bed is cold but honest. The air feels lighter. I make coffee, open the window, and let the sound of the ocean drift in. Some mornings, I take a walk before work, barefoot in the sand, just to remind myself that peace doesn't always come with closure. Sometimes it comes with distance. I stopped wearing my watch for a while, too. Time used to feel like a countdown, to the wedding, to the next milestone, to the life we were supposed to build. Now, time feels like something I actually own. People still ask what happened, sometimes gently, sometimes with morbid curiosity. I tell them, "She lied, I left." That's all. No villain monologues, no revenge stories, no tragic love poems. Just truth. Simple, clean, final. Every now and then, I see a couple walking hand in hand and feel a flicker of something. Not jealousy, just recognition. I still believe in love. I just don't confuse it with sacrifice anymore. That night, 6 weeks after it all ended, I stood on my balcony watching the city lights shimmer across the water. Somewhere out there, she was probably still telling her version of the story, painting herself as the victim, maybe even believing it. That's fine. Let her. Truth doesn't need an audience, it just needs time. When I finally went to bed, I didn't think about her. I didn't think about the wedding or the what-ifs. I just listened to the hum of the city, the faint crash of the tide, the steady rhythm of my own breathing. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a man recovering from heartbreak. I felt like a man who'd survived himself, the need to fix, to forgive, to hold together something that was already broken. And as I drifted to sleep, the thought came softly, without anger or pride. Just truth. I didn't lose her. I just finally stopped losing myself.